All right, guys, let's talk about the two S550 Clocksprings. So there's two kinds. One is with the heated steering wheel element built in. You can see that down here. And one is without. Now, I'll preface this with this is an OEM Ford Motor Company Clockspring. This is an aftermarket one, but honestly, for this demonstration, they should be relatively the same. So we're going to start with opening up this one, and then we'll get into the heated one in a second. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to pull this clip out. That prevents your clock spring from moving, but we're not worried about that because we're going to be opening it up. So inside here, there are little clips you're going to want to push off. So what I like to do is I'll push one, and then I'll hold it until I can push the next one. Okay, and you'll start to see it pop out on this side. You can see it's opening a little bit. So we just go around. I believe that there's 4 of them. By the time you get the third one off, you can let go because it will be pretty much popped off. Let me move my light over here so it's a little easier to see. You can see that that clip is starting to pop off. And then we'll go in here and we'll get the last one, which is here, and that pops off. Now, there's 2 things to remember here. You have one input or one plug on the wheel side, and for this particular model, you have 1, 2 plugs on the outbound side. That means you're going to technically have 2 ribbon cables in here, 2 separate ribbons. So keep that in mind when you start to pull this apart. So all we have to do is we then lift this off, and you'll see your ribbon cable. Now it looks horrendous, it looks like this is a big disaster, but it's not really, because what you'll recognize is over here, again, going into the single plug on the wheel side, you can see the 2 cables kind of layered one on top of the other. So as long as you remember that, you can wind this back up, you know, in that sort of, in that layered direction. So right now this looks like a disaster, right? Like I said, I mean, this looks pretty bad, but it's not. So we'll take them both, and we'll make sure that they're constantly in the same direction. So we'll loop it around. And now when we get over here, what you do is you just push it in, and you'll see it kind of fits in on its own. You have the one that's going to slide in here, and then you have the one that's going to slide in on this side. And this part actually has little slots in it. You can see, look over here. When I lift this, you can see the slot that this cable goes in, and there's a slot on this side where the cable goes in on this side. Now, those are not going to come apart unless you completely disassemble the whole thing, which we're not going to do. So as long as we push it down with our thumb, you can see we can just continue to wrap this in, and then we slowly lower it in. Now, if it's not going in, it just means you have to coil it a little more so that it's not so loose. Always making sure you double check, okay, how are these things looking? All right, we're over here. Now we just have to make sure we slide it in. Now, once again, if it's not going in, you're going to turn your clock spring to tighten it counterclockwise on this one, and that's going to tighten it up, and boom, your clock spring is back together. It can still rotate. It still has everything it needs. We're going to take this clip, and we're going to stick it back on the back here. Now, the way you can identify where it goes is there's one small slit in the clock spring right over here, and there's one small slit over here. Just make sure you line those up, and your clock spring should go back together with no problem. So let me just do that right now. All right, so that is not in the right spot. Yes, it is. Nope, not in the right spot. So let's try this again. Let's get it in the right spot. So we'll rotate the clock spring until we have this thin pin go into the thin slot, and it slides right in, and now it's clicked in. So that's all you guys need to do. All right, well, I'll catch you in part 2. See ya. All right, guys, welcome to part 2. In this part, we're going to go over disassembling the Clockspring for the cars with the heated steering wheel, where there is a plug here and there's a plug here. So knowing that the original Clockspring has 2 ribbon cables in it, I suspect that this one's going to have 3. So I've never opened this one before, so we're going to open it together, and hopefully we'll be able to get it wrapped back up successfully. So let's give this a try. Okay, so the first thing you'll notice about this ribbon cable compared to the last one is there's a lot going on. So there's one here. Let's see, there is a little bit of grease on here to, I think, keep this running smooth. But if we look, there's actually, oh well, it popped out. So looking at this, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 cables in here. So there's 2 that have, there's one that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's one that has 8 wires or 8 leads. There's another one here that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, another 8 leads on this one. Yeah, it looks like 8. And then there are 2 that have 3, and I'm a little curious as to why there's 2 that have these 3. I believe this is for the heated steering wheel, because this doesn't appear in the other Clockspring. But I do find it rather interesting that there are a lot more wires in here than I would have anticipated. Interesting. Okay, so I don't believe that there's extra. I think it's that this is actually wound. It doesn't just wind up in the middle here. It also winds up around the outside. So I wonder if the way the Clockspring works is that it actually winds up. This piece here is something that winds the ribbon cable up even more than it already is. So let's do this. Let's put this back in here. Let's wind this back up. And again, when you have it face up, you know that counterclockwise is tighten. So let's tighten this back up. Now again, if you guys saw the other videos, you'll know this isn't impossible to do. It's just not easy. I'm going to use a pick to make sure I can pull this wire back out so that it closes nice and snug. Okay, so now the way I like to test this is I like to see if I got everything right. It should, if you recall, this should have about 2.5 turns in each direction. So that's 1 turn. That's 2 turns. That's 2 3/4. So we're going to go. So now we should be dead center. So we should get 2 turns the other way. So we got 1, 2, and then this now should be a partial turn. Oh, we got 1 full turn. Oh, this isn't the one with 2 and 2. This is, I believe that this might be 3 in each direction. So, all right, we're at the quarter. But let's not count a quarter, so let's start here. So we're at 1. 1, 2. Uh-oh, we came out. Okay. We'll go back to the end so we have a nice starting point. Okay, so we got 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, 6 3/4. So we know that if we go back, so we're at 0, 1, 2, 3. So now we're in the dead center of the clock spring. And we know that going counterclockwise seems to tighten it. So let's go all the way left. 1, 2, 3. We can't go any more. When we go left, we have the most amount of clock spring that we can possibly get out of this. Yeah, so we can't go any farther. And the reason for that is this particular line. So what I find interesting is that this 3 wires goes into goes here. So very curious. Unless those 2 ribbons, so in order to get such a strong amount of let's say current and voltage into the heated steering wheel, one direction needs to utilize all 3 of these tracks, and then the other direction, the return, the ground of the heated steering wheel, has to utilize all 3 tracks of the other cable. That would actually make sense. That would actually make a lot of sense. Okay, well, so now that we understand that, that's a good starting point. Now let's get ourselves all set up and get this wrapped back up so that you guys know what it's like to wrap one of these guys up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to keep it, again, in the same orientation. The cables should naturally want to hold themselves together. But if you are curious, if I unravel this all the way, you have 2 of your 3-pin cables or 3-track cables going into this section, okay? And the one that comes in and presumably goes to the pin that is on the side with this nub, that's the one that's going to go on the outside, okay? Then underneath that, you'll have your cables that actually go to your plug. And in case you're wondering how those are, the cables are differentiated because one of them, it's very hard to see. This one has all thin lines. You can sort of make it out. This one has all thin lines. If I flip it over and show you the one on the back, this one has 4 thin lines and 4 medium-sized lines. So the medium-sized lines are going to go on the innermost section of the clock spring assembly, and the thick part goes to this side, not this side. So if you look closely, you can see those thick lines. You can sort of see it with the shadow. They are closer to the disc side. All right, so let's wrap this up. So we're just going to keep going. And I'm pretty sure when I get to the end of this thing is not going to be happy, but we will figure out how to make this all work. And you can tell, guys, this is a mess, but we're going to get through this together because I am persistent and we've got the time. if you've ever put together or tried to reorientate a slinky, this is very similar, it feels like. People in the comments are probably going to know some tricks. Hopefully you guys have some tricks or advice. Keep this stuff from getting all kooky. You know what might be easier? What if we start rolling this? Because this is going to suck all the cables back in the right direction. So as I pull this, you can see it's pulling the cables back inside. You just have to be very careful because it looks like these are actively trying to get themselves all tangled up. What if I do this a couple times? Feels like that might be causing this to be a mess. Okay, that actually seems like it did a decent job of making this a little less tangled. So let's keep going. We're going to keep wrapping this up. And what I think I have to do is every time I do a little wrapping up of this, it's going to try to get a little more tangled. We don't want it to get tangled, so we just have to keep turning this. Right? So look, everything is kind of straight. It's not tangled up. And that makes sense, right? Every time I turn this, like every time I turn this thing in here, it's going to make, it would be as if this was turning as well. So I'm going to keep going. Well, this is why I'm doing this video for you guys, so that if this happens to you, you'll have seen this before. All right, looks like I may be getting it back in. Phew, guys, that was pretty nuts. All right, so let's remember, counterclockwise tightens it up. That's what we want. We want to continue to tighten this. it is a little bit hard for you guys to see, but basically you're trying to line up all 4 of these ribbon cables so that they all kind of collapse inside in the right direction. All right. So, was not easy, but 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 1/4. Let's see. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 1/4. All right, so we go back 1, 2, 3. All right, guys, that was long, that was difficult, but that is how you would take apart one of these clock springs, put it back together. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but it's also not impossible. All I recommend is that you guys have quite a strong amount of patience. If you have a lot of patience, you'll be able to get this guy back together. And make sure you put your clip in at the end. Make sure all those things clipped in. And your clock spring is back. So now you've seen the inside of it. Don't be too intimidated. There are 4 ribbon cables. I thought there were only going to be 3, but there are 4. And that's it. All right, guys. Well, I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.